I was reading on Facebook that they said actor Idris Elba was too street to play James Bond. Well, that's just karma. Why? Because Idris Elba had no problem playing the role of a black brute in the movie No Good Deed. And now here is white supremacist Hollywood showing him how little regard they have for their pet Negroes. Now, Idris Elba thought, he could buck dance and bojangle himself into the role of James Bond, not understanding that they, these white people in Hollywood never had that role intended for someone like him. No, when it comes down to characters like your James Bond and your fantasy characters, usually most of these white males want another white male in that role because, when it comes down to these fantasy characters, a lot of these white males live through these characters and they fantasize through these characters. And the whole idea of seeing a black man in that role really intimidates them because that means they can't have that one place where they can feel superior. Because when it comes down to fantasy characters like your James Bond, this is where a lot of the inadequate white males, feel a sense of power and feel a sense of presence. They can't, and if you bring a black man into that, that makes a lot of these inadequate feeling white guys, a lot of these nerdy inadequate white guys, start feeling, really intimidated because this is the one place where they feel they have a sense of power and a sense of strength. So if you start bringing black people into that world, that really makes them uncomfortable. So they would never, have a black James Bond. And they never want a black James Bond. This is why they say things like he's too street to play James Bond. This man is supposed to be from the UK. He's supposed to be refined. He's supposed to be polished. And, he meets all the qualifications for the role. He's intelligent, articulate, well spoken. He's supposed to be the guy who's supposed to fit the role. But, Hollywood, again, is not going to put no black man in that role for the following reason. Again, James Bond, like many of these other comic book characters, like your Superman and your Batman, they were created by white males for white males for the sense of making them feel, adequate and, feeling, superior. Because a lot of the guys who read James Bond novels back in the day, this is how they, escaped. This is how they felt, valuable. This is how they felt like they were someone. And they don't like the idea of a black man, having this role because a black man having this role means that they can't have their fantasy. They can't have their escape. They can't, you know, have their, little world where they can be this imaginary character and this imaginary and to live vicariously through this imaginary character. And because they look at the world, they see all these black guys excelling in sports, excelling, in entertainment, and they want to have that limelight. They want to have that spotlight, and they can't have that because a lot of these guys, they're very inadequate. They aren't very good at anything. They have no charisma. They have no personality. They have no social skills. So they can't, be this person. So they live vicariously through this imaginary character. And when you start bringing this black man into this, who, can probably actually do this in real life, it really makes these white guys feel inadequate. So, you know, I say it like this: we don't need a black James Bond. What we need to do is create our own characters. You know, that's what I do. I say, I don't want to be James Bond. I can, put those articulate and intelligent character traits on my own character and, create a black guy who can be the exact same thing. And that's what I did, a couple years ago with this John Haynes character. I did that with this character. I made him an articulate, intelligent, you know, highly creative and resourceful kind of character. And, that's what I do. That's what I urge other people to do. Try to make this character a franchise character, and make characters like your own characters. A franchise character. Don't sit there and try to be the black version of some white character. No, you want to have your own distinct character that people go, not, oh, he's a black James Bond. You're gonna go, no, he's John Haynes. No, that's what you want. That's what you should want. Because when you have your own character, guess what? It's people are looking at you, you know, and they're not looking at you as the black version of so and so. They're looking at you as, you know, you. And this is what I mean by creating characters who are black instead of black characters, because we have people, they think that creating a black character is diversity. No, creating a character who is black creates diversity. And the reason why that's diverse is because we're looking at a person based on the content of the character, not the color of their skin. And this is one of the big problems that many African Americans, have these days, is that they want to create a black version of a white character instead of just going out and creating a brand new black character that is theirs. And the whole thing is that when you create and build up a character like a John Haynes into an icon, guess what happens? You create what you make that character popular. One, two, you build wealth for African Americans because the character would be black owned, and three, you create a sense of black pride because again, you have black people behind a black character and black people supporting a black character, and that's what makes people, want to support that character because it's a black character created by a black man, and shows things from a black experience instead of you getting a watered down chocolate colored James Bond. You're getting a unique and original character that is their own, and everybody can look at as an original character, and they see it as that's that character. He has these character traits, and I want to emulate those character traits for myself. And this is something that many people they don't look at it from that perspective. No, they want to be the black James Bond or the black Batman or whatever white character. I don't want to create the black version of so and so. No, I want to create an original character, and that's something that I try to do in my writing and with my stories, and that's what I try to do. I try to create distinct and original black characters. I don't want to create the black version of so and so. I mean, I say you want to have your James Bond, go ahead and have your James Bond. Let him be a white guy. I'll create a brand new character, and that'll be our character, and we'll build a franchise around that. And I wish more black people would think that way, but sadly, when it comes down to black folks, they think that being in with white people is more acceptable, and it's just frustrating. You try to create characters so that black people can see that they are the equal of white people, and that they can be just as intelligent and just as charming and just as everything that everybody says about James Bond, you could say about a character like a John Haynes, or you could say about any other character out there. You could say those things about those characters if people would just go out and push them and support them and promote and get the word of mouth out about them. You could be saying those things about that character instead of some white character, and because if we started seeing ourselves as valuable, the world could be a different place. I mean, if we bought our own characters, supported our own characters, you know, somebody saying that somebody was too street to play James Bond, it wouldn't phase us. Well, we could say, well, why would I want to play James Bond? I want to play John Haynes, or I want to play one of these other characters out here, that fit me because I identify with this character more so than I identify with this white character. Because we can have the exact same thing, we can be the exact same thing, and we can create characters like that. And I look at this whole Idris Elba thing saying he's too street. What it really is that you just want to keep your white male fantasies to yourself. And I think I look at it from the movie studio's perspective. They just don't like the idea of making a movie around a black man who is this articulate, intelligent, well-spoken, creative, resourceful type guy, and that flies in the face of all the stereotypes that they promote and perpetuate about black people. And the other thing that they don't really want to show, regarding um, a black James Bond is this guy being, a ladies' man, and he's always being, pursued by these white women. And the whole thing is that a lot of these racists out here, that gag really gets their goat. The whole idea of this black man, being seen as a sex object and a sex symbol by a whole bunch of white women, that really makes them, especially these, these old school fanboys, it really makes them feel inadequate because that really, makes them uncomfortable seeing that black man, being able to attract attractive white women and have them, chasing after them like all these Bond girls do. They don't mind, Pierce Brosnan going after Halle Berry, or like in Live and Let Die, where the woman was, chasing after Roger Moore. But the whole idea of this black man, being chased by white women and being desired by white women, that is not something many of these white folks are comfortable with seeing on screen. That's where the real issue of a black James Bond makes these guys uncomfortable. The fact that this guy is out here, not only having these fantastic adventures, but the fact that white women are out here seeing him, as an attractive and desirable man. That makes a lot of these white guys, especially these studio executives, uncomfortable. They really don't want to promote that image, you know, to people all over the world that that the African American man, is an attractive man, that the black man, is desirable. That's why they say he's too street, because that's the idea that many of these people have, regarding black people. They think that, oh, he's from the streets, he's from the hood, he can't be attractive, he can't be desirable, he can't be refined, he can't be cultured, he can't be articulate, he can't be intelligent. No, the street guy, they have this idea in their mind. The street guy is this guy running around in sagging pants, thugged out, talking about the dope game, talking about the streets. That's what fits their narrative. The whole idea of an African American man who is, polished and well spoken, and can conduct himself in social situations, and is creative and resourceful. That makes a lot of these white folks uncomfortable, because that means you're dealing with a black man who can not only compete with you, but if he starts to excel, may, be better than you. And that really is not an idea that a lot of these white folks want to put out here regarding black people, because, again, that does not fit their narrative regarding black people. They don't mind a guy like Idris Elba playing a black brute like the one he played in No Good Deed. But when he starts talking about playing these kind of roles, they want to throw water on that. They want to throw water on that fire and put it out, because they like the idea of their fantasy characters being white and male, because it promotes the idea of white supremacy and the idea that this white male is superior, and it gives these white males something to live through vicariously, so that their mediocre little lives will appear, to have something to aspire to. Because in many cases, many of these guys who are, watching these James Bond movies, they pretty much feel inadequate, they're insecure, and they need this character to feel a sense of, of worth regarding themselves. So they need, a James Bond. They need him to live through, and, to even pick up tips on, some sort of masculinity. Because when you look at the James Bond character, he's like Rambo and all these other hyper masculine characters. It's an exaggerated image and an exaggerated portrayal of manhood, and that's why they create these images, because they have, a feeling of inadequacy regarding white masculinity. So they create these type of characters. And when you start talking about bringing an African American man in there, a lot of these guys really, that's when you start to see their racism, come to the surface. And because they don't want their fantasy image, corrupted as they see it, by a true image of masculinity. Because when you have when you have black masculinity, it really makes people feel inadequate. It makes people feel uncomfortable because, you know, when it comes down to black men, that's what really makes a lot of these guys feel uncomfortable. Is that black masculinity, you know, the fact that you have a black man who can present himself in the exact same way, that makes a lot of white men feel really really uncomfortable. It makes them feel inadequate, and it makes them realize, that they aren't as great as they think they are. And I say again, when it comes down to these type of roles, instead of us trying to beg and plead to get parts like this, we need to do what I did by 2011, and publish your own book with your own black male intelligent character who has these character traits, like I did with this Temptation of John Haynes, and create your own characters, and support those characters and help them, you know, become franchise characters. And this is what you do, because begging to be a black version of a white person really does not benefit black people. It's when we create our own characters and start telling our own stories that we show how much we value black people and black culture, and how we show the world that a black character, we don't need your characters, we have our own, and we will go out and support our own. And we'll make this into the next James Bond, or we'll make this into something else. We'll make our own characters. We'll make a John Haynes. We don't need a James Bond. We have our own. And when we have our own, you know that's a more powerful statement than us looking to be the black version of whatever white character that's out there.